There comes a moment, a quiet rupture in the rhythm of things, when something inside you whispers, "This isn't where I was." The streets look the same. The sky still carries its familiar shade of blue, but there's a subtle echo in the air, a faint glitch in the melody of the world. And without understanding exactly how or when, you feel it. You're not in the same reality anymore. Most people brush past it, that gentle shimmer in the matrix. They explain it away with logic, routine, or distraction. But for the awakened, those with eyes that see beyond the veil, these moments are not accidents. They are initiations, portals, invitations to remember what this world has been carefully designed to make you forget. Reality is not fixed. It bends, it ripples, it responds to you. You have crossed timelines more times than you know. With every shift in your consciousness, with every deep decision of the soul, you realign your frequency, and with it, the very fabric of your universe. This isn't science fiction. This is quantum fact, cloaked in ancient symbols and rediscovered by mystics, seers, and physicists alike. The truth has been hidden in plain sight, that reality is not something we are trapped inside. It is something we are dreaming together. And here you are now, standing at the edge of a new dream, perhaps confused, perhaps curious, but sensing with increasing certainty that something fundamental has changed. The people around you don't seem to respond the same way. The events unfolding in the world feel strangely dissonant. Memories flicker and shift, and time feels more like a spiraling loop than a straight line. You are not imagining this. You are awakening to it. The question is not if you've shifted realities, but whether you are ready to understand what that truly means. In this cosmic unfolding, I invite you to step beyond the surface of perception into the sacred mystery of reality itself. We will explore the invisible architecture of timelines, the signs that you've quantum leaped without realizing, and how to stabilize yourself in the reality your soul is calling you toward. This is not a journey of the mind alone, it is a pilgrimage of perception, a reclamation of the power you've always carried. Because the moment you know you've shifted is the moment you begin to steer. So if you've ever wondered why the world no longer feels familiar, if you felt the pulse of déjà vu like a memory from another lifetime, if you've sensed yourself living in a dream that no longer fits your skin, then trust, you're not alone, and you're not going crazy, you're going quantum. If this message is already stirring something ancient within you, some deep knowing encoded in the soul, then I invite you to support this sacred transmission. Like this video if it resonates, subscribe to this channel for more journeys into esoteric truth, and share your reflections in the comments below. We are building a community of remembrance, one awakened soul at a time. To understand how you've shifted realities, we must first understand what reality actually is. Not the static, brick-and-mortar illusions sold to us by the five senses, but the deeper field, the vibrating sea of potentiality that responds to consciousness like an instrument to the hand of a master musician. Reality is not a fixed landscape. It is a mirror of consciousness, a living organism of frequencies, timelines, and quantum patterns constantly unfolding, collapsing, and reshaping based on resonance. Every belief, emotion, decision, and perception you hold emits a frequency, and that frequency determines which of the infinite possible versions of the universe you step into. You do not move through time. Time moves through you. You are not simply witnessing reality, you are participating in its creation, with every heartbeat, with every breath. The mystics of old called it the Great Dream. In Vedic tradition, it is Maya, the divine illusion, the projection of form that veils the formless. In quantum physics, it is the observer effect, the scientifically acknowledged truth that consciousness influences what becomes real. In Hermeticism, it is written, "As within, so without. As above, so below." These aren't poetic metaphors. They are maps, keys, laws that govern the shifting sands of our existence. You have been taught to believe that reality is a single, objective stream, but it is not. It is more like a cosmic radio tower, broadcasting infinite channels simultaneously. And your consciousness, your frequency, is the dial. Shift your internal state, and the world around you begins to shift as well. But here's the thing. It doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes, the most profound shifts occur so gently, so subtly, that you only notice by contrast. A friend's personality feels off. A street looks different than you remember. A global event suddenly has a new narrative. These are not accidents. They are the residue of a timeline collapse or convergence. The Mandela effect, which many write off as misremembering, is in truth the collective recognition of divergent timelines merging. Déjà vu is not just a glitch, it's an echo of a choice you've made before in another reality. Lucid dreams, sudden awakenings, personality upgrades, or the spontaneous clearing of lifelong trauma, these are not isolated events. They are markers of a quantum leap. The key theme here is this. You are shifting realities all the time. But most of these shifts go unnoticed because the mind seeks stability. It fills in the blanks. It edits the edges of your perception to keep you safe. But when your frequency begins to rise, when you start shedding the density of fear, shame, and victimhood, you begin to notice. You begin to remember. You begin to see the architecture behind the veil. Another principle to explore is coherence. Coherence is when your mind, heart, and energy field are in alignment. This is when quantum jumps become not just accidental, but intentional. When you are in coherence, you magnetize the version of reality that matches your soul's frequency. Your external world begins to reflect your inner truth. This is not fantasy, it is physics, but a kind of physics that demands a spiritual lens to fully comprehend. As your awareness sharpens, you'll also begin to perceive patterns, repeating symbols, synchronicities, and intuitive downloads. These are not just spiritual experiences. They are signposts from the multidimensional matrix guiding your conscious self through the corridors of possibility. Reality is not just being observed, it is communicating with you. And yet, the deeper mystery is this. There is no one true reality. There is only resonance. And whichever reality you feel most deeply in alignment with, that is the one that solidifies around you. It doesn't matter where you began. It matters what you believe, who you've become, and how willing you are to let go of the illusions that no longer serve the soul you are becoming. This section has only scratched the surface of what it means to shift timelines and awaken to your quantum nature. But if this has stirred something in you, if you've begun to reflect on moments in your own life where the scenery changed without explanation, then the initiation has already begun. There are truths so old they wear the skin of myth. Wrapped in the robes of story, symbols become bridges allowing us to grasp the ineffable with the language of the soul. If you wish to understand the signs of reality shifting, you must look to the stories that have never died, the symbols that have followed us across continents and lifetimes. Because reality doesn't just change through thought, it changes through meaning. And the symbols embedded in our dreams, scriptures, and legends carry the deeper meanings that shape the very blueprint of perception. In the ancient Egyptian tradition, the soul journeyed through the Dua, the realm between realms where it faced trials, illusions, and guardians. It was not the external geography that changed, but the state of the soul that determined the landscape. The Dua is not merely the afterlife, it is this very moment, this realm of shadows and shifting truths. When your internal state evolves, the landscape of the Duat reconfigures. What was once a labyrinth becomes a temple. What was once a prison becomes a gate. In the Gnostic texts, the Archon's forces of illusion seek to trap humanity in false realities. They feed on fear, confusion, and unconscious agreement. Yet, even in these dark myths, a spark of the divine remains within the seeker, and through inner gnosis, the soul pierces the veil. This is the symbolic story of escaping a timeline governed by manipulation and aligning instead with the radiant pattern of divine will. One of the clearest symbolic mirrors for timeline shifting comes from the Hopi prophecies. They speak of two roads, one paved with greed, division, and artificiality, and another with heart, harmony, and remembrance. The split is not only global, it is internal. It happens in consciousness first, and so it is in these stories that we begin to understand. Shifting realities is not just about where you are, it's about who you're becoming. Even the story of the phoenix, rising from its own ashes, is a metaphor for collapsing an old timeline. Fire consumes the form, but not the essence. When you undergo a quantum shift, you may feel the burning of relationships falling away, careers dissolving, beliefs crumbling. But this fire is alchemical. It is making room for a new energetic structure to emerge. The ashes are the remnants of a previous version of your reality, one you no longer fit inside. And then there's the labyrinth, the archetype of the inner journey, the maze that twists and turns, confusing the mind but awakening the soul. The one who enters the labyrinth never leaves it as the same person. Because the way through is not linear, it spirals. Much like reality itself, you double back, you re-encounter symbols, you see old moments with new eyes. This, too, is a sign that you've shifted timelines. When the past reappears, but it no longer holds the same weight. You've peeled back the illusion. The story has changed because you have. In dreams, we often shift scenes instantly. A jungle becomes a cathedral, a conversation morphs into an ocean, and we accept it without question. This is not dream logic. This is the true nature of multidimensional awareness, stripped of the ego's need for linearity. And when you begin to live more lucidly, both in waking life and in the dream state, you begin to experience these shifts more consciously. Not as randomness, but as poetry. As echoes of a deeper intelligence moving through you. Even language itself carries this symbolism. The word apocalypse in Greek does not mean destruction, it means the lifting of the veil. When your timeline changes, it is not always catastrophic. It is revelatory. It reveals what was hidden. And sometimes, the hardest part is not the change itself, but letting go of the comfort of what used to be, and standing courageously in the unfamiliar now. You are the myth, becoming flesh. The ancient story reawakening in modern skin. When you feel reality slip like water through your hands, when the things that once made sense begin to feel hollow, when symbols speak louder than facts, it is not a breakdown, it is a breakthrough. You are crossing thresholds, as initiates once did in secret temples, guided by dreams and signs and the silent language of the soul. So ask yourself, what symbols are speaking to you now? What dreams repeat? What names call out from the past? These are not idle musings. They are codes. They are clues. So what does it actually mean day to day to realize you're no longer in the same reality? It's one thing to hear the poetry of timelines and the symbols of myth, but when your feet touch the earth and your hands press into the raw fabric of life, how do you live as someone who knows the veil has lifted? How do you ground the mystical in the mundane? It begins, not with effort, but with attention, with presence so sharp, so tender, that you begin to notice. You become a sacred observer of the quantum field. You stop racing through moments and start tuning in. You begin to sense the shift not as an idea, but as a texture, a subtle distortion in time, a flicker in people's expressions, a sudden feeling that the air has changed temperature even though the weather hasn't moved. These are not hallucinations. They are feedback from the fabric of the matrix adjusting to your new signal. And yes, there will be disorientation. You may question your memory. You may feel like a stranger in your own life. Conversations may seem to miss, as if people are operating from a different script than the one you remember. Events that once defined you no longer feel charged. Familiar places lose their flavor, and new environments feel uncannily like home. This is not a sign that you're broken, it's a sign that you've upgraded. But with this shift comes a spiritual responsibility to anchor the energy of the new timeline with integrity. The old reflexes will try to pull you back. The need to defend your truth, the temptation to prove what you feel, the habit of explaining the inexplicable to people who are not yet ready to hear. But reality doesn't need you to convince anyone. It only asks that you embody it. Because embodiment is the final phase of the shift. Not believing, not understanding, but living the new frequency, choosing peace when drama beckons, speaking truth even when your voice trembles, following the subtle currents of joy instead of the loud demands of fear. These are the practical magics that solidify a higher reality into form. One of the clearest indicators that you've shifted is how you react to conflict. You begin to notice you don't take things as personally. Situations that once activated deep wounds now feel like echoes of someone else's story. It's as if the code of the old version of you still lingers in the air, but no longer finds purchase in your body. You've changed. Therefore, the reality that would have mirrored your pain now collapses, unable to sustain its structure. Even time behaves differently. You may notice how certain days stretch open like portals, while others compress into moments. You begin to trust timing not just as a concept, but as an intelligence. Synchronicities become more frequent. You think of someone, and they message you. You dream of a place, and the next day a video appears, guiding you there. This is not fantasy. This is the new operating system of a timeline governed by coherence. When you're aligned, the universe becomes less of an obstacle course and more of a dance. And then there's the body, your sacred vessel. It begins to speak louder, clearer. Sensitivities heighten. Foods that once felt comforting now feel dense. Old addictions lose their grip. Emotions move faster. Sleep cycles warp. You're not malfunctioning, you're recalibrating. Your biology is matching your frequency, preparing to anchor a reality where dis-ease is not the default, and intuition is not a luxury but a necessity. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to remember your role. The fog clears. You know what you're here to do, not always in full detail, but as a felt direction, a sacred pull. You stop asking, "What's my purpose?" and start becoming it. Every word you speak, every boundary you hold, every act of presence becomes part of the architecture of the new timeline. You're not escaping this world, you're rewriting it. With your actions, with your integrity, with your light. This is the paradox of quantum awakening. It feels cosmic, but it plays out in the kitchen, in your texts, in the choices you make when no one is watching. You learn to treat every interaction as sacred, every decision as a timeline shift, every breath as a new vote for the reality you wish to build. Because ultimately, that's what this is, the quiet revolution of presence. No loud declarations, no need to escape. Just the courage to show up fully, honestly, and without apology as the version of you that already belongs to the new world. And that, beloved soul, is how you stabilize the shift. You are no longer who you were. And because of that, the world can no longer respond to you the same way it once did. The old keys no longer open the same doors. The familiar roads lead to unfamiliar places. The soundtrack has shifted. The colors are brighter, or perhaps more haunting. The air feels thicker with meaning, as though every moment contains a hidden invitation. And that's because it does. You are not in the same reality anymore. And now, the deeper question is, will you trust the new one you've entered? You have crossed a threshold not through force, but through frequency. Not by doing, but by becoming. And while the old world may still echo in your memories, it no longer defines you. You are no longer bound to the loops of who you were. That timeline is dissolving like mist behind you. This new space, this altered frequency may feel uncertain, like walking barefoot into sacred ground. You may long to explain it to others, to be understood. But know this: the path of awakening is rarely understood by those who have not yet heard the call. That is not rejection, it is initiation. In the higher frequencies, solitude becomes sanctuary, silence becomes language, and presence becomes power. And yet, even here, amidst the cosmic winds of your transformation, you are not alone. Others walk these invisible bridges, souls are waking all around you, some in bursts of fire, some in quiet waves. Look for the signs, speak the symbols, share the codes. You are not here to ascend alone, you are here to remind others of what they have forgotten. So let this be your remembering. Reality is not static, it is sculpted in real time by your vibration, your choices, your awareness. You are not simply in reality, you are weaving it. Every moment is an act of creation. Every thought a brushstroke, every choice a chisel. The world is clay in your hands, and you are remembering now that your hands were always divine. When the ground beneath your feet seems unfamiliar, do not run. Anchor deeper. When people around you no longer recognize your truth, do not shrink. Shine brighter. When fear whispers that you are lost, respond with the clarity of a soul who has found themselves by stepping outside the illusion. This moment right now is the moment of affirmation. The old reality did not vanish. You outgrew it. You expanded beyond its limits. You honored the friction, the pain, the doubt, and transmuted them into wings. And now, beloved one, you are flying into uncharted realms, carried by the gravity of your soul's remembrance. So breathe deep. Feel the reality you are in. Notice the subtle shifts in how people look at you. Notice the signs, the synchronicities, the sudden dissolving of obstacles. The way life now seems to move with you instead of against you. You are not dreaming, you are awakening. You are not broken, you are shifting. You are not lost. You are exploring. And the more you trust this new frequency, the more the path will rise to meet your feet. So step forward. Step boldly. Step as if the universe itself remembers you, because it does.